Yamano-ke, the shadow family. Beneath a canopy of towering trees, where the air is thick and heavy with mist, lies a legend feared and whispered by villagers who dare not venture into the darkness. Welcome to the mountains of an old and forgotten Japan, where shadows don't just follow, they hunt. This story isn't for the faint-hearted, nor for those who believe that every tale needs an explanation. Some truths are best left undiscovered. But if you choose to stay, then brace yourself, for tonight we unravel the eerie legend of Yamano-ke, the shadow family. Ken, a curious soul with a penchant for thrill-seeking and a mind too bold for its own good, sets out on a journey to uncover the truth behind this cryptic folklore. What awaits him in the folds of this story is not just terror, it is an eternal curse. Ken's journey begins with an eager heart and adventurous footsteps. He ventures deep into the mountains, far away from the bustling chatter of the city. Each step into the forest thickens the silence, and with every passing mile, the air seems to grow colder. When he finally arrives at a remote village perched on the edge of isolation, he is greeted by wary eyes and whispered warnings. The atmosphere speaks of secrets too dangerous to be unveiled. The villagers shy away, their words laden with caution. "Leave before the sun sets," one mutters, while another merely shakes their head. But the most chilling warning comes from an old man, his voice cracked and ominous. "Have you not heard of the Yamano-ke?" he asks, his eyes darting to the shadowy horizon. "Stay the night and they'll call for you. They never stop calling." Ken, though intrigued, laughs off their fears. Ghost stories are meant to frighten children, not wanderers like himself. He brushes aside their cautions, believing the shadows hold nothing but superstition. As the villagers retreat to their homes, an unnatural stillness envelops the night. The sun dips beyond the mountains, casting the village in oppressive darkness. Ken sits by the window of his small lodging, his curiosity bubbling as he peers into the moonlit landscape. And then it begins. At first it is faint, whispers barely audible, carried on the wind. They weave into his ears, calling his name. "Ken, Ken." The voice is neither male nor female, distant yet insistent. Anxiety begins to creep in, but his skepticism remains stronger. "You're letting the villagers' tales get to you," he murmurs to himself. But the whispers grow persistent. The voice calls again, this time closer. It knows his name. It feels invasive, lurking just beyond the window. Curiosity overtakes reason. He cannot resist. Ken rises and cracks the window open, letting in the mountain air, and something else. Ken turns and freezes. The room feels colder, heavier. The flickering flame in his lantern dims, and out of the corners, shadows begin to move unnaturally. At first they glide, formless yet sinister, gathering in the center of the room. Slowly they coalesce, taking the vague forms of human figures, but their details remain shrouded in a dark haze. "Who are you?" Ken demands, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. They do not answer in words. Instead, more shadows spill into the room, encircling him. The whispers return, louder now, overlapping, a suffocating cacophony of his name. One figure steps closer, its vague shape pointing at him. "You cannot escape us," it says. Panic floods Ken as his mind scrambles for logic, disbelief battling against the overwhelming dread. Trembling, he bolts for the door, but the shadows swirl, blocking his escape. They stretch unnaturally, their limbs elongating and twisting as if mocking human form. The whispers transform into something heavier, laughter, hollow and joyless. Just as his terror crescendos, the light of dawn begins to creep through the thatched window. Like mist devoured by sunlight, the shadows dissipate, shrinking into the edges of the room until they are gone. Breathless and wide-eyed, Ken collapses to the floor. His mind refuses to grapple with what he has just experienced. The villagers would later find him in his room, shaking but physically unharmed. Ken doesn't wait to face their questions or their judgment. He gathers his belongings and prepares to leave the cursed village, desperate to put as much distance as possible between himself and what he encountered. But as he rushes to flee, the old man blocks his path one last time. There is no judgment in the elder's eyes, just a sorrowful realization. "You were warned," the elder mutters. "Now you are marked." "What do you mean by that?" Ken demands, his voice hoarse. The old man points to the tremor in Ken's shadow, how it shifts and flickers unnaturally, even in broad daylight. "They'll follow you, wherever you go, until they take you. No one escapes the Yamano-ke." Ken's journey home is hollow and fraught with fear. Days pass, and though he tries to dismiss the old man's words as superstition, tiny signs begin to surface, feeding his paranoia. At first, he notices them in reflections. Faint movements within mirrors and puddles of water, shadows lingering where there should be none. At night, the whispers return, faint and malevolent. His sleep becomes restless. The whispers grow louder. He begins to see them in his periphery, shadowy figures that vanish before he can fix his gaze on them. They are not bound to the village. They are bound to him. Ken's paranoia deepens into despair. He realizes there is no escaping them. They are everywhere, within rooftops, in darkened alleys, and corners of familiar rooms. No amount of light can fully erase their presence. With each passing day, the Yamano-ke grow bolder, more present. Ken becomes a shadow of himself, hollow-eyed, terrified, and utterly alone. He tries to seek help, to make others see, but no one believes him. Their sympathy slowly fades into fear of the madman he has become. He withdraws from society, haunted by laughter. Only he can hear in whispers. Only he can feel crawling against his skin. And then one fateful night, it happens. The shadows no longer retreat at sunrise. They consume his room entirely. They are enraged, merciless. He screams, but there is no one left to hear him. Through his cries, the whispers echo one final truth. You belong to us now. Ken's form is absorbed into the formless figures. His shadow becomes part of theirs, another nameless addition to the Yamano-ke. When morning comes, Ken's room is empty, save for a single, unnervingly dark shadow on the wooden floor. Months later, a new traveler arrives at the same village, eager for tales of the supernatural. The villagers shake their heads and turn away, much like they had before. At the edge of the settlement, an old man watches the newcomer with tired eyes, muttering under his breath. "Will they never learn?" he laments quietly. That night, the whispers start again. A new name, softly spoken, beckons from the darkness beyond the window. The story of Yamano-ke is more than a tale of fear. It is a warning. There are forces in this world too ancient to be understood, powers too fierce to be confronted. And for those who insist on listening to the call of the unknown, remember this: some whispers aren't meant to be answered.